So the three brains. Within man, there are three brains. The brain, the obvious one, the heart, and the gut, each of which are filled and contain neurons. The brain has over 100 billion neurons. The heart, 40,000 neurons within the heart. And within the gut, 500 million approximately. These three brains within each of us, we growing up in the world, we have learned to orientate ourselves in different ways with these three centers. Some people become very intellectually strong. So if we think of the intellectual thinkers, the intellectual ones, the lawyers, the accountants, the politicians, those debaters, if we think of those that predominantly reside in the heart, we have the healers of the world, we have the creatives of the world, those which love the poetry, the music, the dancing, this type of thing. And then we've got the instinctual center here. The instinctual center, those that are predominantly rooted here, make great athletes. Athletes, sports people, those that are active, hikers, walkers, this type of thing. We've also got tradesmen as well. Very instinctual. So again, these are very crude stereotypes, but we have the professor, we have the creative one, the artist, the mad artist, and we have the instinctual one, the tradesman, grounded, rooted. This is where we are. These three, for each of us as men, we will have our strengths and weaknesses, or those that we have a greater affinity with than others. But here's the problem. If we become hyper intellectual and analytical, the professor with the big brain archetype comes to mind. Very, very intellectual, but can often be quite cold and struggles connecting with others, relating with others. Very good at reciting and regurgitating facts, not always very good at receiving insights and wisdom from the world, creative, intuitive bursts. Equally, the archetype of the professor tends to be quite frail. So he doesn't really have that physical presence in the world. He doesn't have that prowess. And as a result, when this is unbalanced, he can become cold, disconnected, vulnerable to life, to real life, very astute at debating and living in the world of his mind, not very astute at living in the world of life. We see the stereotype of the geek being picked on and bullied because he's not really in his body and in the world. So that's one of the downsides. The perks, the benefits, of course. The creative, that one living in the heart, of course, generating all sorts of things. But the downside of this, when they don't have the intellect and they don't have the instinct, they can be rather random and floaty and ungrounded and rather naive or foolish even. And people can take them less seriously in life because they're one day they're this way, the other day they're the next. There's no real predictability or certainty or consistency in other areas of their life. We see the stereotypical example of this, the artist who's just got there. All they do is paint. The rest of their world is fallen to bits. There's no money coming in. There's no health in that sense, physical health. Then we've got, of course, the instinctual center and those that are predominantly rooted there. The downside of not being connected with your heart, not being connected with your intellect, is that you struggle to grasp the finer things. You can't have intellectual discussions and people don't really bring that to you. So again, another stereotype would be quite crude and clumsy and a bit brutish and a bit blunt in that way. What we want to do as men, if we want to become powerful, capable men in the world in all areas of our life, we must develop each of these. So you will have strengths, you'll have weaknesses. Locating both Play to your strengths, of course, but develop those weaknesses. Develop those weaknesses. There's so many ways we can do that. Great example of this, Mark Zuckerberg, the old boy. You know, years, about 10 years ago, that guy was just a big brain, huge head, frail body, pale, not looking very of the world, to be honest, quite alien in some sense. He's now doing jiu-jitsu. The guy's an absolute animal. You should see his physical structure has come out. He looks like a different person now. He's much more grounded in himself, it appears. Equally, if we're very intellectual and we struggle relating to people, intimacy, connection, then this is our domain. We must enter that arena, my friend. We must cultivate and develop that. Listening to music, connecting with our emotions, connecting with other people, engaging in activities, social gatherings and events, willing to become uncomfortable to then gain back our strength, our control, our power. Equally, if we are the so-called tradesman archetype, we're very good in the world. We make things happen. There's an instinctual knowing. So you don't necessarily struggle with money. You don't necessarily struggle with decision making. But if you were to connect and build and cultivate the intellect, the conversations, the nuance, the finer things that you can explore in life and have access to begin to open up. So, my man, that's a little short one today. The three brains, taking an assessment. Where's your strength at here? And where are the weaknesses that need to be developed and cultivated? All the best on your journey, my man.